Hey guys, this is Tobias, and it's been a while since I've done a tutorial or a quick tip. But like a lot of you out there, I'm stuck in the house during our pandemic crisis. So hey, I was working on a project recently, and I was doing some very simple sort of shading things, and I realized it was a workflow, or the thing I was doing in my workflow that I thought would be useful and handy to other people out there. So I wanted to show you and walk you through it, and hope that it helps some of you make your better use of your time, speed things up a little bit. For a lot of you out there, TDs, especially, this I'm gonna guess is not for you. This is probably something you already know. Not all that much of a new piece of information for you guys. This is geared more towards the sort of solo freelancer person who's just looking to maximize their time and make things really effective overall. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the most of Quixel, Mixer, Quixel files, and Houdini, setting up Redshift materials very quickly. Especially if you're using a large library of things, you're custom making things, and you just need to get through, a lot of look dev, and you don't have time to sit there and, just set up material after material after material. So let's go ahead and do that. This is the latest Quixel as of this morning. This is the 2020 beta 1.1. Not sure what else is new in here, but this is a pretty basic, layer-based, material editor. And what we're going to do here is we're going to basically go through the flow of, say you were creating your own material. I'm going to use the library ones that are already here for the sake of time, and you are exporting your materials into folders that you're going to then use in a project, right? So in my case, I was just doing quick little test mixes of materials and exporting them into channels that I know are going to be useful in Houdini Redshift. Okay. So say we're making this material here like we did. We call it whatever, mix 3. This is important. You're going to want to use a short, simple name that you can remember. So if it's rock or whatever, or a project name, say you're working on for the particular client, you could say, that client, and then shader 1 or whatever it is, something short. Create the subfolder. Do not add the resolution to file names, because that's going to complicate things. And then if you want to open the folder after export to make sure that it works, that's fine. And then you export that, and you'll get your folder of materials, as you see here. Right? So here's what we have. We've got, say, a set of materials that we've created, and we want to use these in a project. So what we'll do is let's go ahead and create a new project. So in my case, we're going to do Houdini. I already went through this once, so we did a Q test, Quixel test. So let's do a new one. Let's do Q test 2. And what we're doing here is we're going to set up a folder structure inside here that we're going to use later on. All right, so materials. Okay, this is important. And then what we want to do is take whatever folders we've created with our assets. I'm just going to grab these two just to show you. And we're going to put that into our materials folder that we're going to use as our project hierarchy in Houdini. Okay, so once we have this set up, this is good. It's golden. Okay, so we don't need this anymore. We can pull that out to the side. And let's go ahead and launch Houdini. Okay. I am going to do this from scratch for you guys, so you can see the whole process all the way through. I prefer to do things that way, because that way, if anything goes wrong, you can see how to fix it. But also, I find it kind of a little bit of annoying when you're seeing the end result and you don't quite know all the steps to get there. But you might run into problems as you're doing it, and you don't get to see what the solutions are. Okay, so anyway, so we created this folder here, and we're setting our project. I don't know if you caught that, but if you didn't, you could pause the video. You can see I just hit File, Set Project, and I'm just setting the folder to this QTest2 that I did here. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to save our project, even though we haven't done anything yet. But this is important. We're just going to call this QTest2. All right, cool. So now what we've done is we've created a hierarchy that Houdini will understand inside. First thing we're going to do is create a Redshift render setup. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button there. Not options, Redshift. Okay, there we go. I'm going to set up our IPR by dragging this ROP in there. That's done. We're going to go to Object Context, create ourselves a little geo. This will be just test geo or look dev geo, whatever you want to do. Okay. Going to go in here and create a little sphere just for our little test here. Redshift does not have the ability to read primitives in this workflow, so you do have to change it to a polygon. At least you don't need to worry about frequency at this point. We do need UVs though, because we're working with textures. So that's important. And since we're working with a sphere, let's go with polar. That's fine. And give ourselves a little null out for the render. Out geo. That's fine. Set it here for the outputs. And that's good for that. Now we need a camera, because we can't see anything without a camera. Pop that back a little bit in Z space. Let's go ahead and grab a you could use an HDR or regular light, whatever you want to do. For the sake of this example, I'm just going to use a regular area light and stick it up above a little bit. In Redshift, the Redshift lights are upside down when they come in. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but you have to rotate them on the x-axis. That's 90 degrees. Negative 90, sorry. So that they're actually pointing down. And you can tell that by this little line here that you see. See when they come in. Oh, I'm sorry. They're pointed back in Z space. So if you want a top light, you just have to turn it negative 90. There you go. Okay. So now we have like a really basic look dev setup. So we got a test geometry with some UVs on it, a camera, and a light, and a render setup going. Now the next thing we need is materials. What I will say is a prerequisite to this, and I probably should have said this in the beginning of the video, so I apologize if you've got this far and you think that I'm going to show you every tiny little thing. You do need to have the Quixel plugin installed. So when you install the Quixel Megascans and the Quixel plugin, whatever, you're going to have nodes available to you inside of the material network and shop network. That's out of the scope of this tutorial. I'm not going to walk you through how to do that. There's plenty of material out there to show you how to do that. You can go to their website and get going on that. But anyway, once you're ready to create a material here, we're going to create a Redshift network, right? So a Redshift network, because we're going to build this from scratch. And just call this shader 1, whatever. And let's go inside. Let's dive in. So by default, you get the Redshift material. That's basically a surface operator. We need to actually have the material itself to map things to. Okay, so grab this, bring it to the surface. Now, in the case where we have things like normals and displacement, we need to have a conversion of those maps, right? So we need to bring in a displacement node, and we're also going to need a bump node. All right, so bump map. Okay, the bump map is going to go into this overall here, bump input, and your displacement is going to go right into the I'm going to scroll up here, sorry, displacement input of the material. Okay, so this, very basic, this is start. Next thing we're going to do is grab the Quixel texture node. Now what this does is it allows us to read files from disk for all of this stuff. Now, that's really handy, of course, because we don't have to sit there and create. What we normally would do is something like this. We'd have a texture, an RS texture, right? And we'd bring in this, go to the file, find it, map it in, blah, 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 blah. That gets really tedious. This allows us to bring in a list of files and also have some very limited controls for scaling and rotating, which are really handy. Okay, so let's just go ahead and map some of this stuff. So in this node, I'm going to try to make this easy for you guys to read. The common stuff that we care about is this diffuse, right? Diffuse is our color. Diffuse color in Redshift. Okay, we have our normal, which we're going to use. That goes into our bump map. Okay, we have a roughness, which is going to go into our base properties, reflection roughness. Okay, and we did have displacement. There it is. Okay, our displace map is going to go into our displacement texture map. Okay, at a minimum, for most basic stuff, this is going to suffice. You're going to get into specular and all that when you're getting into sort of metallic textures. But as you can see, you can pipe that into the appropriate channel that you see fit. All right, now here's where the magic comes. So earlier we made a couple of folders that had different textures, and that was here. I'll show you. So in our project hierarchy, we have a folder called materials, and we have these two materials in there that have these textures. Now this is only two, but imagine if we have to go in there and say, okay, now I gotta go in and search each texture every time I build this network. What I could simply do is take advantage of the syntax that's available in Houdini to automatically read this based on a project location hierarchy. Okay, so without being long-winded about it, I'm going to show you. I'm going to copy this in here because I did this earlier. But all I did here was just you can do this too, is just create a little text file with the basic syntax for this, and then you can reference that later on. But this should be the same for all of these textures, right? So what you're going to do is the only thing you're going to have to change here is the at the end here, right? What the actual name of the channel is, right? So we have albedo, right, which we did, and what we're doing is we're looking at this hip file's location on disk. We're looking for that materials folder, which we created, which you saw, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start to read the node name. So $OS is the name of this node right here, this green node. Okay, so if I say, hey, why don't you read in materials, I want mix 2. So if I call that and say mix 2, what's going to happen is that it's going to go into that folder, look for the mix 2 folder, and then look for the file that says mix2 _ albedo. And we can validate that exists by going in here. You can see here it does say mix2 _ albedo.png, right? Following that same logic, we can populate the rest of these fields using that syntax, right? So we could do, I didn't use bump, but I had diffuse. Albedo and diffuse are pretty much the same. They're identical, actually, in Quixel land. But, for whatever reason, if you want to have access to those different files or export them, or you get a folder that was made by somebody else and they chose albedo over diffuse, you can set this and forget it, kind of deal. Same deal here. You have your displacement. Now in the case of displacement, it's a 32-bit float file, so that is an EXR. Okay, and I do believe they use lowercase, and that's a file extension, and it's the full name displacement, right? And you just kind of scroll down here and use what you're going to end up using here, right? So I know I have a normal for the little tiny surface details. I know I have a roughness. Alright, so we just use that. And I think for the examples that I have today, those are the only ones I used. Right? So it should be done. And what it's going to do is it's going to pipe in all of these channels into their appropriate doobly-doos, and you're going to get the output. Now, let's go ahead and save this, just in case, because you never know. And let's open up a Redshift render view and kick off the preview. Let's see if it works. Oh no. You know why that didn't work? The eagle-eyed of you noticed that Test Geo doesn't have material assigned to it. So you have to assign it first. Dodo. Okay, we're probably going to get something crazy because the displacement's probably going to be wackadoo. I'm sure. Oh, not terrible. Okay, let's see if we can make this a little bigger. This camera, a little small. Let's do that again. Okay, so in the case of displacement, again, a lot of you out there already know this, but you have to go to the Redshift Object tab, Tessellation, enable Tessellation, and enable displacement. Whoa, craziness. Obviously, that's a bit too much. So there you go. You have that. This would obviously look a lot better with a HDRI, which I'm going to do that in a second. But before I do that, because when I did this during my little sort of test walkthrough, Houdini crashed on me. So I don't want to crash this in the middle of this video here. So what I'm going to do is, before I do that, I'm going to show you that this works pretty easily. So I'm going to go into my shader, and I have all this set up. And like I said, what you could do if you wanted to is you could just simply copy all of this syntax into a handy little notepad file and save it somewhere easily accessible. And then just copy and paste it in. If you're really brave, you can save a version of this node that is a preset of sorts. I would caution you against allowing editing of contents and then saving this node itself, because you have the potential of breaking the plugin at that point. The safest thing to do is to do the notepad, copy the syntax over method, because that way you're not breaking the node. But check this out. If I name this node something else and then hit my refresh, it would load in all of the different textures from the different files for the other material. And in a second here, we're going to get something. There we go. Different material. So by an order of magnitude of, say you're using 10 materials in a project, or 20, once you set this node in there, this kind of material setup, you could do it once here, create one shader that is all set to go, call this whatever you want to call it, mix 2, and literally make a copy of it, go in there, change this name here, right there on that node, and you'll have literally different textures. So we could go back to our objects, say we had multiple objects, and simply change our texture right there, which we already did that. Okay, and obviously, oh, there we go. Okay, it just needed to be out of that field. So there you go. So the last thing I wanted to show you, which I was afraid was going to break Houdini because I did break it the last time, is let's just go ahead and add a light dome here. So if I load a texture, and this is where everything crashed the last time, so I tried to read a dock disk and it didn't work, but today it works. Now it's gonna work, so hold on a second. For some reason when I'm recording video, I noticed that the access to the drives, like the reading of the drives, slows down. See, like it did a weird funky thing there. Like it's doing a funky thing. What's going on? It's probably because of this IPR running. I wonder. I don't know. I don't have the exact reason for that. But see now, see there it is. Okay. Alright, so I have HDRs here. I think it might have something to do with the IPR. But let's just say, for sake of example, we wanted something else here. Now we have it. Right? Cool. Alright. Awesome. That worked. Thank goodness. And rotate it a little bit. Get better lighting. And there you go. So now, again, we can just switch over to the different ones we want. And as long as we've set that file up, you know, the once and done kind of thing, all we have to do is change this the name of this node here, and it will always read the proper image files, provided that you have the folder structures properly named. So you have your project folder with your Houdini project in it, a materials folder, and then all of the subsequent materials that you want. Whatever naming convention you want to use, it's entirely up to you. You use that, and just simply name this node that, and this is a once and done kind of thing. And I think that's it. So I hope that that's useful to some of you out there. Again, like I said, I know that there's probably a bunch of you out there that this is not anything new to you. But again, this is geared towards sort of the solo freelancer looking to speed up their workflow and get more efficient and be able to spend more time doing other things. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and good luck.